something as simple as like, all right, I won't admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
There are times where I thought something was going to be very fruitful, and it wasn't. And I could try to hoodwink the team. And just try to act like it didn't happen.
Y'all didn't work hard enough.
Right. Or I can blame it on them. Right.
You didn't believe. You didn't believe.
Or right. Indict their faith, right? If you had believed more, right?
Welcome back, Breath of Life family, to the Weekend Exhale with BOL. This is the Vision Lab, and I get to serve as your co-host along with Pastor Devlair Snell.
Hey.
And we dive into leadership best practices, tips, tricks. Sometimes we interview folks. We bring in practitioners, those who have taken a vision from concept to reality. But today is special because it's just us. It's just going to be myself and Pastor Snell, and we're going to get a chance to talk through what does it mean in leadership to be liked. Put that in the chat if you can. What do you have this insatiable need and desire, even as a leader, for your people to like you? And has that served you well? Has that served you poorly? Let us know in the chat, even as we discuss here on screen. So, Doc, people like to be liked.
It is.
This is a reality.
It's human nature.
It's human nature.
It's human nature.
We want to be liked. We want to be liked. I get a chance to chat with some of my nieces and nephews who are in high school. One or two are just starting college, and there's this group think that happens. It's like, well, I don't want to wear that because. I don't want to be out. I want to be liked. I want to be in with the in crowd.
Or somebody posts something online, you go back to check to see how many times it's been liked.
That's so true. The terminology is transferable even in the online space. How many likes did I get?
Do I get?
How much interaction and how did anybody put any hearts on there?
Right.
These are ways that people can share that they like what you're doing. But even in the content space, that is too small a motivator for it to actually propel you towards success.
Right.
But I wonder, what is the space that like plays for the leader?
So, I think, as we kind of unpack this idea of can leaders be liked, where I would start is saying the leader can't be liked all the time.
There's good.
Because I think that one of the things I've just come to believe is that you should prioritize as a leader being respected more than being liked. Because like is so subjective. And a lot of times like is based upon agreement. Whereas
or external activity, something you have done.
You've done.
It's like, okay, I like you today. But it is also subject to shift.
So that as long as you're feeding your team or feeding people, they'll like you. But as soon as you stop feeding them, they may not like you as much. And I think that, but there's a spiritual truth though, right? So in Isaiah 55, God says, as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my thoughts above your thoughts, and my ways are above your ways. And I think there is this kind of fundamental truth that when you have a vision from God, it's going to always put you at odds with the masses. Like rarely does a God-breathed vision just, soothe the masses, confirm the masses, affirm where humanity is already leaning. Most times it's countercultural. So for instance, like, God's vision for Abraham was like, man, you got to leave your kindred, everything everything that is familiar to you. Many times when you look at specifically the life of Moses, God's direction for them man, just made people be upset with him. So like even when you think about that space in Exodus 13, 14, 15, when they're leaving Egypt, and the Bible says, that he takes them through the way of the wilderness by the Red Sea.
Yeah.
So like you're a sojourning people.
Yeah.
And you're walking through like the rough part,
the wilderness,
and you see a Red Sea at the end. Like that's going to automatically put you at odds, right, with the leader who's guiding you in that direction. And so I think that there's just got to be something that every leader has to embrace. That in order for me to be loyal to the vision God gives, I'm got to be comfortable living with some tension with people or the group that I'm leading.
This is so good, the respect and like, and I want to say this, it doesn't mean that like is not on that list.
Right.
It just should be lower. Than respected. There's this natural thing that happens when people like you, that they will work with you. They will work with you. They'll get on team. They'll do certain things. But when they respect you, they're actually looking for you to do things that they probably would not necessarily do themselves. They're looking for you to call out of them certain things. And I think there's a dynamic there at play that leaders must lean into. Because you sometimes will have a dynamic. You will have perspective, is the term I'm looking for, and insight on the full picture, and never have the opportunity to fully explain. Because that's the thing I wanted to share. Is how much time should the leader, like in this case of Moses. So Moses knows God told him to go this way. There was a shorter way.
There was a shorter way.
And it would have made more sense because it didn't include a sea. But God says, go this way because I don't want them to run into these guys and then they'll, the taste of war. All right. So he has a full reason as to why he's going this way.
That is beyond what they can comprehend.
And how much time should he then take to explain to the people, this is why we're going this way? Other than, because at some certain point, I need you to move. I need you to be active.
Well, so I do think, so for instance, there's a time and a space where the leader has to draw buy-in. And I think that you've got to make the vision pervasive, so that you're not just giving dictates, but you want the vision to be a shared thing. So that it's not like, that's Kirk's vision or that's the pastor's vision. No, it's God's vision for us, our church, our ministry, or if you're a spiritual entrepreneur, our company. And so I think that there's a time and place for that. But I'll be honest with you that there are times, and you probably, even in our staff meetings or even here at Breath of Life, there may be some times where I'm kind of saying, hey guys, this is where, I sense God is leading and I want kind of us to have a shared dialogue. But then there's some times where I'm just coming out saying, I'm just going to communicate intent. This is where the Lord is leading, and this is how I need you to help facilitate that. And so
there's something there.
It's never one all the time. But there are times where the conviction is just so robust, it's so strong. I can't allow it to become diluted through opinion or just somebody who may not see it right away. So there are times where we're just communicating intent, but the majority of the time, it's all right, this is where I'm sensing God's leadership and direction, and it is confirmed in our shared
as we
dialogue.
Flesh it out. And you're absolutely correct. We have absolutely had those experiences. One of the things I wanted to pull out here as well, the leader is also filling a bank account with those they are leading. I think this we're going to keep. That's a good word. We're going to keep on going back to Moses, because Moses, God had Moses with the children of Israel in Egypt, essentially filling the bank account. Plague after plague, miracle after miracle, signs and wonders. such that now we're in the wilderness. Yeah. We're going in a direction that this doesn't make sense. Right. And we're heading towards the sea. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep marching because I've seen something from this leader. Yeah, yeah. I've seen something from this leader.
That he or her, their leadership has borne fruit.
Oh, that's the term. That's the term.
And when your leadership has fruit, it builds confidence. Yeah. It grows morale. And then what happens is you develop this miracle climate around what you do, where you begin to sense that, man, anything It's possible.
Come on.
There is no limit, no lid. And see, this is why I think the danger is, why there's a danger in leaning into being liked.
Right.
Is because like has a plateau. Like there is a ceiling to it.
To like.
I mean, listen, we all got some friends.
Yeah.
I like them. Like to kick it around. Watch the game with them.
Yeah.
Go out to eat with them.
Absolutely.
But see, like is not going to get those who are rocking with you to run through a wall.
Ooh.
People are not going to sacrifice for like. They're not going to stay committed to like.
Ooh.
But when there is respect,
Yeah.
when there is conviction about,
Yeah.
the competence, the spirituality, anointing upon the leader, like that's where people make sacrifices. That's when they will give to it as if they were giving to something that was their own.
Yeah.
That's when they will come early and stay late.
Yeah.
But for people that you just like, we get along. We're great. But generally, people don't sacrifice and commit in that kind of way if it's just alone in a vacuum.
And this is what happens now for a leader because. And to be clear, if you are a leader, you are leading.
Yeah.
You're leading someone, you're leading a group, you're leading a company, you're leading a ministry area. But for the leader who is leading, you want kind of mini leaders.
Yeah.
So like a group that you're leading that is just liking you isn't necessarily going to challenge you either.
Right. Yeah.
They won't.
Yep.
So when you bring when there are those times when you're saying, hey, this is the general sense. Now let's flesh it out together because those are critical moments as the leader, a leader. But when we say, hey, let's flesh it out. I don't want everybody saying, I like your idea. Let's just go with that.
Right. Yeah.
I actually want to hear. Some dialogue, some back and forth. Well, I was thinking this way. Have we looked at it like this?
Sure.
I think sometimes you come up with a better plan, a better course of action, a better next step when I'm giving you the overarching thing.
Sure.
Now, let's body it out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so as a leader, you want to instill in your folks that level of respect. Somebody who respects you is going to say, I think we're going slightly off on this.
Oh, yeah.
Can we look at it this way? Somebody who likes you is just going to be like, I don't got any skin in the game, so that's what he wants to do.
Then move on.
Yeah, you go.
No, and I think that's so critical because, like, even when you look, say, at Moses, there was a certain point where the spirit that was in Moses was imparted to the elders.
Yes.
So that he was able to reduplicate himself in those that were following. Same thing. Before Elijah was translated, man, Elisha was like, yo, I want some of your spirit, what's in you, I want that in me.
That's it.
And I think at the end of the day, great leadership, it never operates in a silo.
That's it.
It's reduplicated in the team that you're leading. And see, what happens is you do want not necessarily disagreement, but you got to be able to lead where there is some tension. Right? Yeah. Because honestly, when I think about a leader whose story probably should have unfolded very differently, it was probably David.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Even though, it's funny because like when you look at in scripture or specifically kind of Jewish culture, it's like Moses, Abraham, David, Elijah, they have like that.
That's our span.
They're Mount Rushmore, right?
Yeah, absolutely, the Rushmore,
But honestly, the last half of David's life, it's actually painful to read, especially when you look at kind of where he started. Because and where it went awry was not just with the sin of Bathsheba and the murder of her husband Uriah. I mean, the judgment was, God didn't take away the kingdom. He did not, condemn him. But he said, man, the sword is never going to leave your house. Wow. Like, the consequence of this is not going to be removed, right? Wow. But I do think, though, where it fell apart, though, was at a certain point as Samuel aged and got removed from the picture, David began to fill his inner circle with people like Joab, who were enablers. Like where whatever he wanted, Joab was just going to roll with it.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So when he sends and says, man, put him in the heat of the battle,
and withdraw.
Joab doesn't disagree because he wants, favor. He likes the leader. And it actually compromises the strength of the team.
That's it.
It compromises the morality of the leader.
That's it.
And it essentially, leads to a downfall whenever there is not a creative tension, a collective tension, and a moral accountability around the leader.
Yeah, because if David had that in that circle, some dissenting voice, even if they pulled him aside respectfully and say, "Hey, Doc,
no, dude, you're doing too much.
We're going way off here."
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this we cannot do.
Yeah.
This I can't be a part of.
Right.
And you will definitely be better for that. You and as leaders, you want to cultivate that kind of relationship in your teams, that kind of environment, that kind of atmosphere, where your people feel comfortable to say, you know, here's where we are.
Sure.
But there comes a time where the discussion is over.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And as the leader, you have to make that decision.
You got to make that decision. Yeah, I mean, and so that's why I just think that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, there's a great statement, especially as we talk about this whole thing with being like, in Desire of Ages, Ellen White makes a statement about the ministry of Jesus. She says that essentially he did not allow popularity or applause to be the metric by which he measured success or failure. She says that he did not become elated by the praise and the adulation of men, and neither did he become discouraged by their censure and their insults.
That's good.
In other words, like he was the same, kind of regardless of kind of how the crowd was moving. And this is why I think that it's critical that, you know, and we're talking about this in the context of spiritual leadership. You're a spiritual CEO, the church leader, ministry leader, or the leader of your home. At the end of the day, you have to live for the approval of one.
Mercy.
Like at the end of the day, like Jesus made it very clear, like listen, he's like, man, I'm not here to do my own will. I'm here to do the will of him who sent me. Like, I mean, he was so loyal to the purposes and the designs of his Father that he didn't poll.
Let's see.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't call everything for a vote.
No.
Like once the Father made it clear,
we got
like, I'm all in with this one thing. And at the end of the day, you know, he heard it twice at the beginning when he was baptized. This is my son, whom I'm well pleased. And then when he was transfigured, right before, you know, he completed his mission at the cross. So as long as he was getting heaven's affirmation, earth's applause didn't really mean a whole lot. And I think that, you know, there are times where, you know, especially those who are pastors who may be watching, if you got heaven's affirmation, you know, human applause begin to lose their value.
Wow. I don't know about y'all, but I'm taking some good notes. And I'm ready to execute and live out purpose. Be sure to join Pastor Snell on First Fridays for Playbook, where he'll be breaking down the Word of God and showing us the Bible and how it can guide every aspect of life. Exhale with VOL is every Friday night, so lock it in your calendar. Now let's get back to Vision Lab.
That's absolutely critical. And again, it goes back to that motive, respect, like, what is the motive behind it? You know, you almost want to, in being liked as a leader, you almost want to make sure that you check why do I want to be liked? And what does that desire to be liked cause me to do? Because whatever you draw a line towards, it's like, I'm doing this because I want to be liked. That's a dangerous place. That is a dangerous place, because it will take you down roads that you had no intention, no business being on, because it's not working towards the goal in which you have been set up to do.
And it's funny because there are times where God may give the vision in a concentrate form. But what we do is we dilute it with opinions. And if you're not careful, like, I think there are many people that have been a hireling to the vision, and their loyalty was to opinion. And so what will happen is, like, man, it is clear, you know, that in my quiet time, or as Pastor Russell will say, when I was on my face, you got it in this very clear, direct way. But by the time you start listening to voices, and this is why, you know, I do think you need to have, like, counsel around you. But I do think it's really critical that when it's clear, that you shut it off. That you don't kind of go around and say, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? No. Like you just you have to begin moving on it. It's funny because, like, even when we think about Joseph, you know, really, you know where it went bad for Joseph, you know, because I think the assumption is the way Joseph's story went was the only way it could go.
That's so true.
Which is sometimes not necessarily true.
Right.
But I think a part of Joseph's problem is he would have these dreams, and the reason he would go blab it to everybody is he was looking for agreement.
Of course.
He's looking for somebody to say, you
Y'all
know what,
gonna
that's
back
right. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, if your vision puts you above me, you can't tell that vision to everybody. You see what I'm saying? So if your vision is bigger than people's opinion of you, you can't share that with everybody. You have to be
it's a totally different space.
Selective.
Yeah.
I think you have to really have to have discernment about who you're sharing that with, because not everybody is going to celebrate a vision. It's funny. I was, back in January, I was speaking for a Martin Luther King event in Kansas City, and as I was researching this, one of the things that amazes me is that there are certain principles that everybody embraces as obvious, self-evident truths now, right?
Yeah.
So like one of the mantras, it's almost a sacred text now, is Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, right?
Correct.
But it's amazing how, when I did the research, over 200 newspapers the day after he gave that speech condemned that speech.
Yeah.
That there was a senator from Arizona that actually said the speech was a form of treason and called for him to be prosecuted.
Wow.
And so it's amazing. Or even there was one African American paper that said this speech, man, is high-minded, out of touch with the sentiments and the feelings of the average American Negro. Now, it's crazy because, when a vision is still in the vision phase, there's very few applause and cheers for it. Man, that was so far and radically different to say, man, that one day we'll all sit together at the table of brotherhood. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That
People
white men
like,
and black men, color of skin, and you'll be judged by the content of your character, not the color of your skin.
Yes.
Man, that was so countercultural.
Wow.
And at the time, man, it was widely condemned.
Both sides,
right? He was getting it from both sides, right? But it's accepted, man, as if it was just self-evident and obvious. And I'm saying that to simply say that at the end of the day, if he was kind of trying to figure out how is this going to be received? What are white people going to think about that? What is our community going to think about that? So on and so forth. He would have been making a lot of amendments, a lot of adjustments, a lot of detours. You know what I'm saying?
And that's so good.
And the vision, it's still incomplete.
Yeah.
But we can see it moving, towards, in that direction.
Yeah.
And so I do think that you got to make sure, leader, as you're here today, you got to move as God gives it to you, and that you don't allow it to be edited. There's a very famous statement, I don't even know who said it, but it says you can't let blind people proofread your vision.
Mercy.
You cannot let people who were not there when it was given to you, when it was instructed to begin making edits and amendments and adjustments. You got to move with courage and boldness.
That's what leaders are called to do. That's what leaders are called to do. And it is sometimes, because somebody might be out there right now listening, and they're saying, I don't know if I like what I'm. What you guys are, the picture you're painting of leadership. I might not be liked. It's going to go countercultural. Both sides of the line may end up hating me.
Very much.
And sometimes I can't explain myself. I can't even tell people why I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't know if I like what I'm hearing. And I want you to sit right in that tension. Because that is leadership. That's leadership. That's what it is. And listen, you will have a high. You can be on the mountaintop. And find a valley right there as well. And unfortunately, this is the tone and the tenor of leadership. But because God is calling you to it, if He's placed that vision on your mind and your heart, if He's speaking to you in those quiet moments, in those times where you're on your face, and you feel convicted, I need to move forward to bring this thing that God has birthed within me to reality. This is the road. This is the road ahead.
Hey, Pastor. So let's make sure we do clarify something. Right?
Yes.
So sometimes this conversation can lead to a faulty conclusion. That says, okay, man, if there's just discord and strife and it's falling apart, that's the proof I'm in God's will, right? Are there some habits that a leader can demonstrate that's creating tension, but it's not necessarily a good habit? How do you? What are some, good habits that create tension and bad habits that create tension? You got to be able to, we want to help our people know the difference between the two.
Absolutely. I think one of the good habits would be making sure that your people know when they've hit the mark.
Okay. Good.
I think as leaders, we cannot hear that enough.
Yeah.
It cannot be overstated.
Right.
And it's not so much that you're trying to boast people up or let them feel, kind of some sort of way. What it is it's confirming we've reached this particular finish line.
Gotcha.
I love that. I'm a Scrum Master, certified Scrum Master, and we have this thing called the daily sprint.
Yeah.
And you do your projects in certain iterations. You don't try to do the whole thing.
Right.
We have a couple of defined outcomes for this particular sprint.
Right.
When we finish that, we celebrate, we affirm everyone,
Yeah.
and then we move on to the next one.
Right.
And so I think that for leaders, you don't stack the deck with affirmation.
Yeah.
Don't not affirm. It's like, I don't want to pump
Right.
them up. No,
Sure.
Stack the deck with affirmation.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, you know yourself better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so you know when you are ill-prepared.
Yep. There you go.
And your people are reacting to the fact that you are ill-prepared.
Right. Yeah.
There is an honesty
Yeah.
that I think leaders can lean into there,
Yeah.
a vulnerability that leaders can lean into there in that moment
Yeah.
that harnesses power and it builds trust with your people.
Sure.
And so that balancing act must be there as well.
Yeah.
Because in those moments when you know I'm operating at a deficiency,
Yeah.
I didn't do what I needed to do.
Right.
Guys, what you really need to say is, team,
And can I say
I'm sorry. Go
and
ahead.
this is where being liked will help you temporarily. So if your team, they like you vibe, you've shared quality
that's such a good
time
tie-in.
away,
Yes.
you've shown concern,
Yeah.
it will cause people to overlook some things. But that you talked about the bank account.
Right.
It's a limited account. You will come up insufficient
That's
funds
correct.
shortly.
That's correct.
But that's where helps you temporarily. I just wanted to throw that in before you finish.
It's absolutely good because you do need to draw from that. When it is time to pull the team together and say, I'm this particular thing, this was on me. Have those moments.
Because we're all flawed leaders.
Oh yeah,
all of us are
that's
flawed.
it. That's it. And have those moments, and allow the team to kind of rally, and you can build from that moment something even more powerful. You can earn respect in that moment far more than you can in trying to cover it and do. So to me, the covering would be one of those things that a leader's like, oh, my team's just not dedicated. My team's just, no, there's some things that you were doing, and we want to point those things out and we want to be real about them. But let's see if you can, we want to hear from you as well. What are some things, maybe on both sides, something that leaders can do that because we don't want to look at chaos as the litmus test to say, I'm a good leader. No, but what are some good things that leaders can do, poor things that leaders need to stop doing?
So for instance, I think one of the things that's going to create tension is that one of the jobs of the leader is to create an atmosphere of accountability. That's not always going to be cheered.
That's so good.
That's not going to always be celebrated.
Yeah.
So let's just say you're a Christian boss or entrepreneur or CEO. You've got to put protocols, and policies in place that says you've got to be on time. You got to punch your time clock. You've got to do things with excellence. It's kind of calling out the best in people. Even when they feel like they're giving their best. You see something that sometimes they can't see, and you've got to draw it out of them. And sometimes that's through requirement as opposed to just encouragement.
Right.
So that sometimes creating that environment of accountability, even in a ministry space, or even sometimes where people are operating as volunteers in your church. There'll be times on some occasions where somebody will say, well, Pastor, something came up, it's Thursday, I need to go out of town because of this is happening, that's happening. Not to say, no, it's your weekend to serve. No, you can't go out of town this weekend. You can't.
That's it.
There is consequence
This is so good.
to you leaving. There is, and even though it's the church, sometimes people kind of see that as less important, less value, but I'm like, no, this is critical, this is essential. And I have to kind of look at them in a very uncomfortable way and say, no, I need you to amend that.
And this is not the like space.
And that is not the like space.
Not the like space.
Because by the time they're telling me, they've kind of made plans.
Oh yeah.
They've told somebody I'm coming. They're looking to move. And I'm kind of like, no, you can't really do that.
No.
And that's going to put you, kind of at odds with people. So the one that holds people accountable, not in a dogmatic, dictatorial way, but just says, no, in order to preserve excellence, like we cannot just be a rudderless institution or group.
We have a direction.
We got to have direction.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think that's something leaders has to do.
Yes.
But it's going to create tension.
It will, definitely.
But I do think that there's some additional things that sometimes we do wrong that add tension. So like something as simple as like, all right, I won't admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
There are times where I thought something was going to be very fruitful, and it wasn't. And I could try to hoodwink the team and just try to act like it didn't happen.
Yeah. Y'all didn't work hard enough.
Right. Or I can blame it on them. Right.
You didn't believe. You didn't believe.
Yeah. Or right. Indict their faith, right? If you had believed more, right? No, but I have to come back around and say, you know what, family, I really thought this was going to bear fruit, but unfortunately it didn't. But I think, and then it's clear you haven't done any assessment. So you can't even say this is why it wasn't as fruitful as we hoped it would be. And so I think that, when you fail to admit that you are wrong. I think at the end of the day, it's going to add tension to the team. And that's not proof that I'm leading well.
Yeah.
It's just saying, those are some things that I'm not doing correctly. I think, in addition to that.
I want to just tap one thing in there, because I know you're going to go to something else. And this point is specific to what you just said. I was listening to a podcast, a leadership podcast, and one of the guys on there, this is somebody who led at the Fortune 500 level. He says he would have to practice in the mirror every morning, at least 20 times, saying the phrase, "I was wrong."
Wow.
He said, I wanted it to feel natural.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to come out of my mouth. Because, you can say it and be shaky. You can say it and it not feel normal. You can say it.
It would almost be better to not say it. That's how it comes across.
But he said there is a way to say, I was wrong, that still bolsters respect and it allows the team to come together. And he wanted to deliver it. So, and it's not like he was saying he was wrong every day, but he knew there was an issue for him. And this is the piece, more than just the phrase and the actual practice of going in the mirror and saying it, he knew himself to a level that enabled him to say, I need to do this on a regular basis in order for me, so that if it comes up in the course of the day, and I do see a scenario where I was wrong, I won't immediately go to my default setting.
I like that,
it'll come right out of me
to
say, guys, I feel like I was wrong here. And you can say it again in a way that brings everyone together, and it doesn't. It's not divisive. I wanted to just because there, when you said it, it came back to me. And that's powerful.
It's got to be authentic.
It's got to be authentic,
and it's got to be something that people feel. Like you can say the words, but if it does not register or resonate as credible, it will be as if you didn't say it at all.
But when it does, I'm telling you, leaders, I'm telling you, when it does,
it lifts the team.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah. Man, being liked versus being respected. Being liked versus being respected. This has been a really great conversation.
It's needed.
It's needed
because I just think at the end of the day, even the one common leaders have had varying levels of success, so it's not just, success is not just one thing,
right?
But so success looks different in every context.
Yes.
But the one commonality of every leader, the golden thread that is woven through every experience of a leader, is going to be times of criticism, disagreement, or not necessarily being liked or everybody's favorite.
Yeah. And that's what we want. That's what we have for you this week on the Vision Lab. We're so excited for this space. We want to say a word of thanks to you for coming through and hanging out with us today. We also want to say thank you for your emails and your comments, the questions that you send in. We truly appreciate that. This weekend exhale from BOL is a phenomenal, power-packed series. Several shows. We want you to just lock it in every single Friday.
Every
Friday. And then we want to ask you to do a couple of things for us as we get ready to land right now.
So we ask, number one, for you to pray
Yeah.
Number 2, for you to share. Need you to
Gotta
make this
share.
be viral.
Yeah.
Again, if you're a leader, you probably are in a friend circle with other leaders.
That's it.
Ministry leaders, pastors, entrepreneurs, CEOs, whatever it is. Listen, send this out to them as well, that they might be encouraged, be equipped, be strengthened. And then as we close, we're going to share with you some ways that you can give and support the ministry so that we can fill up the airwaves and the internet streams with spirit-filled, God-centered, Christ-centered content that pushes the mission and the kingdom forward. God bless you.
God bless you.
We look forward to seeing you next weekend for the Exhale with BOL. What's good, family? Breath of Life is going to be coming to the West Coast. We're excited that from July the 14th to July the 27th, we're going to be hosting our 3rd annual Hope Rally under the theme Almost Home. We're going to be meeting for those 2 weeks in Long Beach, California. We're going to be meeting each night except for Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:00 p.m. It's an in-person meeting only, so you can't catch it online. You've got to be in the house. We're going to be joined in musical partnership by gospel recording artists Smokey Norfolk, Jonathan Nelson, and Donnie McClurkin. Each night, dinner is going to be served, and there's going to be special programming for your youth and for your little ones. It's going to be a high time in Zion, where we're going to be preaching the good news of Jesus Christ. And we're going to be reminded that this world is not our home. Again, I look forward to seeing you in Long Beach, California from July the 14th to the 27th. Make sure that you're planning to be there and you bring somebody with you. If you want more information, go to our website at www.breathoflife.tv. God bless. I'll be seeing you this summer.
Thank you for watching Vision Lab. The Weekend Exhale with BOL is every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. Join us for honest discussion, relevant topics, and practical advice. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single episode. Your support keeps the mission of Breath of Life moving forward. There are ways to give both on screen and in the description. Catch up on the episodes you may have missed by clicking on one of the playlists right here. Some good content, y'all, packed with information that you want to hear. Go! We'll see you over there.